It is March, and it's been mad.
I like
mad, I say.
Yes. So there have been a number of upsets this weekend. And, of course, we all love those upsets when small schools grab the country's attention and knock off the big national powers. But over the past few days, the top 4 seeds in each region won their first-round games in the men's NCAA tournament. This marks the first time in March Madness history that this happened 2 years in a row. Now, the lack of upsets at that level coincides with the dawn of the NIL era, where college athletes can be paid for their name, image, and likeness, and also transfer to another school without having to sit out a year. That has led to a lot of questions about the future of college athletics. So we are joined by someone who knows a lot about that, has written a lot about it. Joe Nocera is a senior editor and writer at the Free Press. He's also a Pulitzer Prize winner. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's start with this year's tournament. People are on the internet, which, everybody's got an opinion on the internet, but people are suggesting that NIL's killed the Cinderella stories of years past.
Well, you did have High Point winning, beating Wisconsin 83-82, but they're only at 12. They're a 12 seed. There were no 13 seeds, 14 seeds, 15 seeds. 16s almost never win. But I would say there have been upsets, but some of the upsets, like Texas was a 9 seed, I think, and won. It's Texas.
Yeah.
You can't really, So there haven't been many. What there really haven't been is the small school phenomenon that you never heard of before, or that's always been a small time player having an upset. You really haven't seen much of that. It's kind of true.
There's been a lot of criticism about these NIL deals. First, if you could explain how they work. Is it, because I imagine schools with more money can have programs that attract players, even though they're not playing them
rich donors.
They're not paying the players directly. So how does it work? And then why is it not something that kills competition or maybe takes money away from other programs because there is so much focus on basketball or football?
Well, a lot of that is what's being discussed right now. I mean, college sports right now, and the governance of college sports is a mess. The NCAA has thrown up its hands saying, we give up, we keep losing in court, we can't deal with this anymore. NIL is a means by which donors, wealthy donors, come together in a collective and pay players. Now, the problem isn't the pay. They deserve to be paid, for crying out loud. These are full-time jobs, and they're making money for the university. That's not the issue. The issue is the combination of NIL and the transfer portal, the ability to transfer right away. So what often happens is a player's agent, yes, players now have agents because there's money involved. Player's agent will call a certain school and say, hey, my guy's getting $50,000 here. If you pay him $100,000, he'll go in the transfer portal and he'll move. And that's happening on a...
What if they've already been paid by that university?
Well, that has happened. There have been some lawsuits over that.
Big ones, yeah.
And that gets to my solution, which we'll get to shortly. And so that's happening left and right. So you take a school like St. John's. Rick Pitino was born for NIL. I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. Bryce Hopkins was our best player at Providence. He's now at St. John's. Yeah. And they're in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
But you can't blame Pitino. You can't blame Bryce Hopkins. He's making money.
So what's the solution?
The solution is contracts. Just throw in. Look, for 100 years, the NCAA said if they're not amateurs, nobody will care. Nobody will go to the games. You'll ruin college sports. We know now that's not true.
That's not true. Right.
It's as popular as ever. If the players had contracts, you say to the player, come here, but you have to stay for 3 years. We'll pay you X for 3 years. If you leave before then, you have to give the money back, just like a coach would have to do if the coach left.
There are no contracts now?
They're not between the school
and the player.
Got it. Because they're still not being paid by the school.
Oh, we could talk about this forever. Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is one of my favorite subjects.
I used to be someone who didn't think that this should happen, and now I'm a believer.
Well, because the players now, as Joe says, it's a full-time job for them.
It is, and they make so much money.
The job is not school and education.
You can't pay the coaches $10 million a year and give the players nothing.
And have the schools make millions off of TV rights.
That's right.